Ever watched a movie and wondered to yourself, man, what happens after all of this? Like, the protagonists all fall in love, the bad guy's incinerated or blown to bits or whatever, and the news anchors are reporting that the day has been saved. But has it? Post-disaster / giant battle / rampage, there's gonna be a lot to deal with. It goes a lot deeper than rebuilding some apartment complexes and paving over some enormous footprints, too. There's a lot to consider when fixing up post-Godzilla attacks, so let's ask what we're all wondering. How would a Godzilla attack hurt the economy? One would have to assume that the effects of a monster rampage would be widespread and far-reaching. Like, sure, the immediate infrastructure being toppled would cost a lot of money, but imagine all the fallout afterwards. Nuclear and economic, of course. You know, because Godzilla is essentially a giant walking nuclear weapon. Get it? Sorry. I'll get to the actual content. As a baseline, let's get some hard numbers going. We can discuss the general effects as we go. After doing some truly cursory research, I've discovered a few examples that we can pull from. Number one is a much more American issue, the aftermath of the final fight from the first Avengers movie. Remember when that was the most bombastic thing imaginable? Oh, how times have changed. I know it's not the perfect one-to-one comparison, but it's a good starting point. According to the Hollywood Reporter, the cost of an enormous city-spanning battle in the Big Apple would cost something like $160 billion. Holy smokes, right? The damage itself would make up a little less than half of that, with cleanup and environmental costs making up the rest. That's a pretty penny for sure, but at least the world was saved, right? And it's not like just one person would be picking up the tab either. Taxes and emergency funds would be used to ensure that life in the city could maybe one day return to normal. Of course, the cascading costs would be something else entirely. Once everything did get put back together, people would have to start imagining life in a world where this kind of thing happens again. So in addition to paying for all the repairs, new infrastructure would have to be put in place to stand up to possible future threats. Funds would need to be allocated towards programs to ensure safe and effective evacuations over time, and folks in power would have to make all sorts of promises to have all sorts of safeguards against supernatural attacks. To be honest, after an attack like that, a whole bunch of new jobs would probably be created too. But hey, that's just the Avengers we're talking about. Whatever crazy threat they face off against is likely less destructive overall than a kaiju battle, and less likely to require Geiger counters in the aftermath. Has anyone hashed out the exact price of a Godzilla attack? Well, actually, yes. IT Media Business talked with a Tokyo-based business consultant to try and put a price tag on a recent Godzilla outing. Looking at Shin Godzilla, the cost looks pretty hefty. The attacks this rapidly evolving kaiju masterminds would cost something like 9 trillion yen, or 87 billion US dollars. And that's just the physical, structural damage to Tokyo and its many buildings and amenities. We've also got to take into account the weapons used against the towering threat. Military technology is infamously expensive. Plus, in Shin Godzilla, stuff like bullet trains and drones are used and abused when fighting the beast, and they don't come cheap either. We can probably tack on a few more $1 billion to the attack because of that. This is all pretty surface level stuff though. Think about what would happen to all the people whose homes and businesses were wrecked during the attack. What are they supposed to do? Rapid evacuations aren't easy and require a lot of stuff to be mobilized immediately. And then once everyone's out of immediate danger, you've got to house and feed them for a while. Displaced people need somewhere to stay, and businesses need new bases of operation if they're to remain profitable. So there's all of that to consider. Plus, if we're now living in a world in which kaiju might just pop out of the ocean from time to time, it would probably be prudent to move major cities away from the coastline. A lot of pretty important places have developed right against oceans. Moving all of that infrastructure to less developed places and building new cities for all these kaiju-fearing folks would be a crazy undertaking to say the least. So the final price tag reported by Sora News 24 lands somewhere in the $815 billion range. Not cheap at all. And that's just considering Tokyo and the surrounding areas. If other major waterfront cities decided to follow suit just in case, there'd be a whole lot more spending going on. And something tells me that Godzilla doesn't have the funds to pay reparations. Maybe if we could weaponize the monster and use it as insurance in the coming days, and maybe teach it to build and make it do lots of heavy lifting, although that is tough for a creature with relatively short arms. Dang. Now, after all that, I have some additional bad news. Shin Godzilla, although it has potential to be quite destructive, is one of the weakest iterations of the legendary kaiju to date. Plus, it didn't fight against any other monster. All it did was attack Tokyo and fend off humanity's weapons. If a stronger version of Godzilla touched down in Tokyo, the damage would likely be a lot more severe. Could you imagine the cost of repairing whatever got annihilated by an infinite spiral heat ray? Or what if this version of the legendary lizard had to fight off another threat? The crossfire would definitely make some wallets weep. So yeah, a Godzilla attack would present the world with a whole lot of damage to fix, but the physical damage is just the beginning. All the buildings destroyed had a purpose, and those purposes would need to be relocated ASAP if folks didn't want everything to fall apart. Add in the cost of essentially dealing with a city's worth of displaced people, and you've got a whole new issue to contend with. A threat like a kaiju would alter the way the world operated on a level we've never seen. It would present us with an existential threat previously unheard of. Although it could actually be a good thing. Sure, it would put quite a strain on the economy as we know it, with plenty of money and resources required to repair the damage. But if we pivoted from intercontinental competition and our current profit-based mindset to a more unified one meant to protect humanity from Godzilla and his contemporaries, maybe we'd find this new purpose was better for us overall, helping each other because we're human, rather than because we can make some money and prove ourselves better than everyone else. Maybe that wouldn't be so bad after all. So what do you think? Did I cover what needed to be covered concerning Godzilla's impact on the economy? Would you rather deal with the death knells of late-stage capitalism or the roars of a nuclear weapon with legs? Who would win, Godzilla or the Avengers? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more pleasant ones from our SCPs that could destroy the world marathon. Marvin de la Cruz Serrano says, just put a mirror in front of it and it will destroy itself. I wish it were that simple, Marvin. I really do. Matthew Brown says, love the background music. Me too. And Callie Gibson says, these are always so crazy. Only the craziest for our fans. And that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Ugh. More Godzilla for the Godzilla God. Kaiju battle, and a lot less likely to be less destructive overall than a kaiju battle, and probably less destructive overall than a kaiju battle, and less likely. It's tough for a creature with a what am I doing here, guys? What is this joke I'm trying to tell? Why am I delivering it so poorly? The damage would be likely a lot more severe. Nope.